after we get it set up. Don't wait till it's actually just sick or something. All right.
Commission on this? Welcome everyone to the meeting. Monday, April 11th.
Yeah.
Need the camera louder.
All right, thank you, Pat. I'd like to call County Resources to order at 6 o'clock. We only have one item here before County Resources. It's authorization to submit an application to the state and municipal facilities capital program and the commitment of Greene County funds for a Cahoe Tate Preserve infrastructure improvement project. We have Warren here. I don't know if we want to just form the board a little bit.
We've been invited by Senator Hinchey to submit an application for a SAM grant in the amount of $100,000. We've been working on this for a little while, and we've had several meetings on site with some of the legislators. We were able to get Barton LaJudas, our engineer, down on site to put together some preliminary cost estimates. So this resolution will accomplish two things. It'll authorize this to submit the application to Hinchey, and it'll set a tentative budget or a preliminary budget for the project estimated at about $750,000. That would comprise $100,000 from the SAM grant, $400,000 from Greene County Soil and Water Conservation District. So the Conservation District, who initially was involved with the construction and initiation of this project all the way back in 1999, has a special reserve account that they're going to commit $400,000. So thank you to Joel Dubois, the Executive Director of Soil and Water and the Soil and Water Conservation District Board. They've already met and they've already committed $400,000 to the project. We would contribute $250,000 to bring it to that $750 number. That $750 it's a placeholder. It's a preliminary estimate. It's just based on unit cost. We haven't done full engineering. We haven't done bid specs or anything of that nature yet. We have a deadline of this week in order to get the application in. So we've put together a preliminary budget. As part of that budget, it requires a commitment and evidence of funds, which we would do tonight by resolution if the board wants to support the project. It's a great project. It's exciting. We haven't done any improvements to it since 1999. Just a little bit of the improvements that we're looking to make. We would make improvements to the site as well as to the building envelope. The building itself, the roof, the siding, the windows, everything is in excellent shape. Most of what we would be doing is putting in insulation, heating, and a bathroom inside the building. That would allow that building to be used for additional programming to extend the seasonality or the use of the building with our partner at the community college. They've expressed a need and an interest not only to use the building for a longer duration, but to bring additional programming there as well. That's positive for the college and the county. For the site, we all know that it's in a challenging location. So we're looking at bringing electric to the site. And we've been looking at a couple different alternatives. That's probably one of the most expensive single costs to the project. And as part of the bathroom install, we're looking at putting in a holding tank on the outside, installing a well for water supply, and a reserve placeholder for making some improvements to the access. We haven't decided what officially those improvements are going to be, and we have a couple potential alternates we're looking at from the adjoining property that we recently took by deed from the IBA several years ago. So that's the overview of the summary of it. And what's really driving this now is the deadline for the SAM application. Happy to take any other questions.
Probably should consider this phase one of the redevelopment of the site.
Yeah.
So Warren, Dr. Pinder from the college is here. She's one of the professors that uses it. And I think it expands the opportunities for students at Columbia Greene as well, because they can use this building besides just the summertime, but more throughout the year. So maybe Dr. Pinder, could you?
And the college has been at our workshops and our meetings, and we're happy to have them as part of the project.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening tonight. I am an associate professor of biological sciences at Columbia Greene. I've been there almost 10 years now, and recently I was appointed the environmental studies program coordinator. Part of that role is to really promote the environmental studies program that we have at the college. It is a really great program, and it's something that we're trying to get to stand out more. Our goal is to make it the best in the state. You guys all know Greene County is really a great place for natural resources and environmental science. The location of the field station on the river really makes us super unique in our program offerings. So part of this would allow us to expand those program offerings for Columbia Greene students. But we've recently started doing more programming with, we started with Catskill initially, we started with the 4th grade, having a day at the river, kind of getting the students to learn about the river. We're expanding that this year. We really would like to expand it in future years as well. And the president of the college is really committed to doing more community outreach for this. So it wouldn't be just for the college, it would really be for all of the students in Greene County.
In partnership with the other school districts. So I think it would be a great addition to what we already have. And then is this property owned by the county?
Greene County owns the field station and the preserve and owns the adjoining property.
So
Could
could
barn
we,
and 5 acres of property in an adjoining property.
right, so I know we really only have one county park.
Yes.
If
So
you want to call it a county park.
Right, so could this be considered another, extension to that? Could this be considered a county park?
Absolutely. The activity focus is not going to be ball fields and.
Right,
Right. But absolutely.
then maybe that would open up to additional funding at some time.
Good.
Lots of sources of funding out there. Again, the engineering has not been done. When we have the engineering and we have better costs and have really defined the program, if it's more, we'll come back and inform the board, and eventually we'll have to get authorization to go out the bid, prepare the bid specs. But for now, the top line action is to commit funds and get the sand application.
Warren, do you know, has state DEC or EPA ever used that field station just for general study of the river at all in any way?
I wouldn't know. Good idea too. Invite other partners to come in.
I know in years past, we've taken Boy Scouts down there, and then there's like boxes like on trees with a number, so they do like a cachet, so when they're doing land navigation, they go there and they write their name, and then that way, there's ones on 4 Mile Point, but there is a couple of things like that, so I know the scouts use it, and we've used it when my kids were in scouts, and I was a scout leader, we used to go down there often.
There is another field station that the state either owns or participates in. It's on the other side of the Hudson, to the south, might be in Dutchess County.
Tivoli Bay.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it, but there's a big field station down there, and the state has a lot of activity with that. We will have to apply for building permits. We will have to do seeker. We'll have to go through the DOH as well. We've got to get permission to put in, the holding tank. So there's a lot of elements to this. But we need to establish a budget and get a better idea of the program and get engineering done.
Anybody else? All right. All in favor?
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Luvera and Overbaugh.
Who made it? I'm sorry.
Luvera, then Overbaugh. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So carried. That's an aye for Harry.
Harry's in the house.
With no other business coming
Aye.
forward.
We heard you, Harry.
We heard you, Harry. Thank you.
First time.
Adjourn.
Take the ribs out.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Overbaugh,
Second.
Lavera, we are adjourned. Thank you, Harry.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At the Open County Services 610. We have the DSS Commissioner is here, I believe.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Say a few words.
May I go forward?
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I think I'm gonna get a clip. Oh, it's over there. Tell me I can't move from the clicker. So good evening, everyone. I have a quick 13 slides where I can talk for hours. And I haven't spoken to, actually, this side of the room, the new group. How's the new group doing? Good, good. Okay, so don't be shy. Please find me. Where DSS is very confusing, lots of questions. So my 13 slides, I'm trying to bring it together so it's a little bit easier to understand. But if I make it worse, let me know, okay? Because that's not my job to make it worse. It's supposed to be easier. So here we are. What I'm doing, and you probably can't see it, it's an organizational chart. Okay, the message is DSS is big, there's lots of people. What do we actually do, right? Because it's very confusing. So I'm just gonna highlight some of the bigger programs, and then I wanna show you some of the budget impacts. So there's 3 state agencies, OCFS, Office of Children and Family Services, Department of Health, which is, Medicaid, and OTDA, Office of Temporary Disability Assistance. So in the first column, and I really can't walk over there, can I? Does it work so far? Does it work so far? Okay, that's it. Okay, so in the first column, what we have here is we have a prevention unit, JD PINS unit. Basically, we're trying to keep kids out of care. Kids come into care, we pay a lot of taxpayer dollars, we disrupt families, sometimes bad things happen. So we try to do everything we can to keep families intact. So that unit has grown over the last couple of years. Child welfare, what we're looking at, as you can see by the other numbers that I give you on a monthly basis, we have 50-some kids in care. Those kids are coming into care from the work that the CPS workers are doing. Years ago, we had about 120 kids in care, and about 10 years ago, 13 of those kids cost, and I remember legislator Martinez will know this, $1.3 million. We got an additional 13 kids into care. So to keep families intact and do what we need to do in the community, not only is going to save taxpayer dollars, but it's going to be a much better outcome for these families. So last year alone, there was over 1,000 hotline calls came into CPS. Every one of the 60 days to be investigated. And then adult services is the last division there. So anybody over the age of 18. So there's rec payee cases by 19 days, and there's currently about 26 guardianship Article 81 cases that come in there. So lots of moving parts within those divisions. The next division we have here under the Director of Eligibility, the OTDA programs, they're probably a lot of terminology that you guys hear about actually cost the least amount of money on the public assistance side, even though that's hard to believe, but I'll show you another chart as we go through. So we have the public assistance, we have the employment programs, SNAP, which is food stamps, and we have the HEAP program. HEAP program this year, because of what we're looking at, we're over $3 million. So there's no local share, that's all federal dollars. Medical assistance, and that one, that's for the nursing home clients. We have it divided. Medical assistance down here is the SSI population, roughly around 1,300 people currently. Those are folks who are disabled according to the federal government, and then community Medicaid. The child support unit right here, the staff right here, providing over $4 million last calendar year. Those are dollars that go right to the families and the children. So their paternity testing, support orders are well over 95%. So that's some of the highest in the state. Next column we have here, because I'm a deputy Sue Polino, and you folks know that. I was dreaming up new programs. I was put her in charge of it so we can kind of run them out and figure out what we need to do. So she's been looking at the homeless program for me for quite a while. This evening we had 18 homeless people, 9 different places throughout the county. We just added one more person to the legal team. We have 3 attorneys.
Fraud and resources, I have a nice little surprise and another slide coming up here to show you on fraud and resources. Central assessment is the home care section. When you hear about aging, talking about they're not able to serve cases, we have the same problem. But in the budget, I'm going to show you a budget impact of what just happened. It's still not going to solve the problem. I have a small IT division with 2 people, and I have a small accounting division. So they're roughly moving $13.1 million with claims in that division. So.
What was that number? 13 what?
13.1.
With an M or a B?
That's local share. I only talk about local share. That's local. It's million.
Okay, I thought it was with a B. I was sitting in my chair farther back for a minute. So.
No, we'll get to the B. We'll get to the B. Okay, how do I? Button on the right. I'm left-handed.
Could be an arrow.
I see an arrow. Okay, when was that work?
Okay.
Oh, can I go? Oh, okay. So how much do I cost? I'm representing about 13.1 million local share. So what am I doing with all that money? Well, why do we have better outcomes? What's really happening? 82.08% of that is Medicaid. I can do nothing with it. I can't move any of that. We're stuck. That is what we pay. That goes up every single year. So at 13.1, you take out that, which is about 9.1, I'm down to 4. I do everything else. All those other divisions I just showed you, I'm doing with $4 million. Pretty slim deal from 13, huh? It's supposed to laugh you.
Kyra, on that share you're talking about when it comes to Medicaid,
Yeah, the 82.
obviously NISAC is always saying to the state and the federal government that it's their program, they should fund it 100%. Does it ever get anywhere?
Okay, so hold on to that thought process. And if I didn't answer your question at the end, come back. Because I'm bringing in the NISAC resolutions. We have a lot of tools. We can use because every county is pushing the same issues. NISAC is a friend of ours. We do a lot of work with them, and we get a lot back. But we need to tell them what we need. So Sean and his team, what they did is a very, very important resolution was the EF map. Medicaid is very complicated. The state makes it complicated. It's not easy. For a real crucial conversation, if you truly want to understand it, it's going to be about an hour and a half in my office. There's lots of caps. There's no easy solution to any problem that we have. But the EF map that NISAC moved and took to the board of directors actually represented a lot of money for this county. The last time we had a reconciliation was in 15-16. So all the years after 15-16, we only got 80%. The state owed us the additional 20%. I can never figure out the numbers because the additional 20% on the EF map was the newer populations, according to the federal government. We didn't control them any longer, so I didn't know what those numbers were. So we roughly guessed them. I aimed low. Sean knew that I purposely aimed low. And then we got the real numbers on a FOIL request. So the real numbers.
Hang on, stay right there. Just for clarification, in previous years, we were reimbursed on a quarterly basis, and then the final quarter would be the reconciliation where we had trued up. The state stopped that final reconciliation back in 15-16, and every year since that point, we have not reconciled. So they're holding the money that the federal government has given us statewide. This is all 62 counties, and this push that we wanted to make was to release these funds. So my peers, we all FOIA'd the state to say, well, how much money are you holding for each county? That's where Kyra is right now.
Was it shown in the escrow account? Is it actually there, or is that it just says there?
It's actually there. They don't debate they're holding the money. They don't exactly explain why they're not releasing the money.
And the federal government, they want us to get these dollars because several years ago, the feds came in, they interviewed me, they want to make sure that we got the monies, but of course that was the 15-16 year. So at this point, what the state of New York owes us, according to their FOIL request, the numbers are 2064793. So over $2 million they owe us right now. Now that continues to grow because we only get the 80% upfront. and they still owe us the 20% based on a reconciliation. But it becomes much worse because once we hit the pandemic, we ended up with another FMAP. So people get very confused because they say, you just talk about FMAP. Well, we have two of them. We have a COVID FMAP, a regular FMAP. I have an administrative cap, I have a weekly share, and I want the whole darn program capped. Because if we use the real cost of this program, I went through $100 million every year, this program. That's how fast it's grown. There's no control over what's happening in this program.
Designed by the feds.
Absolutely. I can't even, I mean, I love to work a lot of hours. I can't get ahead of it. It's just incredible. So yeah, so this resolution, I wanted to see what NISAC was trying to do. So now they made, the governor's office is well aware that we want this money. Problem being, even if we got that money, if they change the weekly shares, we're potentially in a lot of trouble. So I wanted you to see that one. Then I wanted you to see 9101 on clickers.
Think you gotta turn your back on it and walk away.
I get a 7-year-old if you
It's
need.
like my phone. I know. So the other thing that we did is then we broke out some other moving parts within the budget, and we really pushed hard on these things. And we thought we were gonna have a change, but I'll tell you in the end, it didn't happen. So I'm just gonna tell you the titles. This resolution, we are urging the governor and New York State legislature to restore the critical state funding support for child welfare services, safety net programs, and to fully fund the recent foster care settlement with state resources. There's a lot in that title because what you need to understand is the state of New York was fighting a massive lawsuit out of New York City. A lot of policy changes are made in New York City. It was on the child welfare side, not to pay what they call the MSAR rates. It's the maximum state rates that they paid for foster care children. We went to the MSAR years ago because I realized what was happening. They were nickeling and diming us out of the end, and I didn't get the level of care that we needed for the kids when I had to place them in other counties, because we use all these other counties for foster care. We don't have all the resources here, especially when you look at Albany. So we need to go there to get the outcomes that we needed. New York State settled this lawsuit, agreed to pay the money, but also agreed to an additional category, an exceptional category that's going to increase my daily rate by 46%. We never had a seat at that table when they made that decision. So they passed it to us. In the budget, they gave us no additional dollars to pay for that. That will take effect this summer. So my line item, I'll be coming back to you to say, I just went to the line item, and that's why. Somebody made a decision, we had no input to get rid of their 10-year-old lawsuit. So they did that. Child welfare funding, we were trying to be very kind. We were looking for 65% instead of 62% for a reimbursement. We didn't get that either. On the safety net side of the house, I think folks have been here for a while. Realizing safety net, we've been arguing for a 50% share. Safety net is a category that exists in New York State. There's no federal share. It's not a federal qualified program at all. So currently, we pay 71%, the state pays 29%. So it's not a fair deal at all. It's in the New York State Constitution, we shall provide for these people. So we didn't get that either. The next one that we looked at.
Did that one already.
No, this is the next one. They all look the same from a distance.
That's what says number 2. You started with number 2, I thought.
No,
This is COVID.
you're wrong.
Whoa.
See me tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Okay, this one we wanted the state to focus on rent allowance. The original rent allowance was not the original. The last time rent allowance in the public assistance budget was looked at was 2003. In Greene County, the money we give you on public assistance for the rental portion is $191. Now, I don't even know what mousetrap you're staying in for $191 at this point, because it's just not realistic at all. When you add the other piece, it comes up to a little over $300. So we were looking at that because we realized what was happening here with COVID. Nobody can live in the county any longer. We also wanted the restoration of 50-50 on the sharing for safety net. And we wanted to clarify the homelessness prevention goals by making permanent housing the central focus. Because I want you all to be aware, I can tap into an emergency allocation to put people in a hotel. I cannot take that same bucket of money, which would be less money if I put you into permanent housing. I cannot do that. They do not allow us to do that. So we were actually begging for some relief in that particular area. We didn't get that in
Was 192, was that per week or per month?
month. Good question though. So here's a nice little surprise. I got this letter on the 28th, and obviously we went through 2 years of COVID. Everything's been very, very difficult. I need to be in the community. It doesn't work. My staff can't stay in the office. If we stay in the office, the caseloads are just going to skyrocket. And I've been seeing this happen in other counties. So what we did is we were in the community, sometimes kicking and screaming and yelling and knocking on doors and whatever we needed to do. And this was our cost avoidance number. And take a look at this. Because of the work that we did in the fraud unit, cost avoidance in this one category, over $717,000. That was a front-end detection. Every case we get, we go and we knock on the door. What does the application say? It says that Sally and Susie lives in the household. Who's Sally and Susie? How many kids are here? Did I just walk by a red Corvette? Or what's really going on here? So those cases we're able to look at, and then there's 20 figures, the state figures out. So the state sent that all, which I think for living in a year of COVID, that was pretty amazing. And that was more than the prior year. So people were in the community, they were actually doing that. So I thought that was a nice little find. Okay, so these are there's 7 things I thought all of you should know about the current budget. We got all the budget bills. There was a lot of things I was led to believe was going to happen. We were working on the weekend. There was calls. There was lots of questions. What's the impact to local government? I was even told there's three-way agreement and some of the stuff, but then you have to find it in the budget bills. And lo and behold, all weekend long, I'm looking for Medicaid stuff. I'm like, what happened to it? So even though I think NISAC's going to say countywide the budget, it looks pretty good. It's not good in DSS.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not good. It's not good. If it's not good for me, it's not good for you. Okay, so at this point, the public assistance, there was a 45-day wait on the safety net side. That means I couldn't give you any assistance for 45-day waits. They're getting rid of the wait. They're eliminating it. They're increasing the public assistance amounts. And I was always about work. I need to send you back to work. Now, when somebody has a birth of a child, they can stay home and they don't need to work for 12 months. We've gone backwards. I mean, the rest of the world, hasn't really done that. People have their children, people have families, and we all go back to work. But now they just did that to me, so it's going to be very difficult. There's no increase in the rental assistance, and this morning in the budget bill I found, they eliminated the mortgage deed, the lien repayments related on the PA beneficiaries. So the impact is going to be, they're going to be eligible sooner, longer, and more dollars are going to be spent. So that's number one. You need to be aware of that. So every month I give you the numbers, they look pretty good. They're pretty stable. They're going to go back up. I won't be able to get a certain caseload back to work sooner. So I'm probably going to outspend those budget lines. On the SNAP side for the food stamps, the benefits have been higher than I've seen in my whole entire career because of COVID. How everyone feels about that, that's going to stop in June, we're being told. But think about what's happening when you go to the grocery store right now. We're all experiencing high inflation and the prices. It's incredible when you pick up a piece of meat. I mean, a pound of bacon the other day was $6.99 for the same pound of bacon I've been buying for the last 10 years. I was like, oh my God, what happened to that? I just want to make a broccoli salad out of the thing. Well, bacon's going back in. So what's going to happen to the caseload? The impact there is we're going to need more local administrative dollars. The state doesn't fund that. The feds pay for the benefit, but the state kind of really walks away from that. So we're going to end up with a problem there. Number 3, I thought was really interesting. We had, despite initial support from the Assembly and the Senate, the final budget did not include a return to a 65% child welfare funding, additional state funding to support foster care, the MSAR changes I needed, the removal of the kin gap from the foster care block grant, or additional adoption subsidy funding. OCFS, when I talked to them about it, they have new terminology. They're calling it rebalancing. We'd all love to do that on our checkbook, right, to rebalance it. So we're all going to share some additional pain. And then, of course, the MSAR rates are increasing due to the quarter settlement with additional category. So the impact's going to be increased daily rates and higher rates in that division. Okay, childcare. This is really interesting. So this number is with a B. They're putting $7 billion targeted over 4 years. The impact, at least in upstate New York, I can't solve this problem. DSS cannot solve the problem. There's a real disconnect between the problem and the solution. You can give me $1 million more. I can't make daycare providers. We don't have any centers. We're not developing centers. So universal childcare, whose issue is it? And again, we don't have the providers. I have nobody on a waiting list. People haven't been asking for daycare. The cities have had a wait list. People, once COVID happened, people took care of the children. They had allowed their family members. People left the workforce to be daycare providers. We've seen that happen. The next one, number 5. This did happen. They expanded the Medicaid income eligibility for seniors and disabled individuals, but they omitted the language to eliminate the resource test. There was lots of time and effort and lots of numbers about the resource test. The state, believe it or not, even though a Medicaid program is a means-tested program, the state can put in any means test we want, believe it or not, even though 1965 was developed for low-income people. They didn't think about the transfer rules. We got stuck with the feds with the transfer rules. So you could write it, if you wrote a check for $30,000, there was no resource test, but then I had a nickel and dime you on that check that you wrote and you weren't gonna get your Medicaid turned on. So they omitted it in the language. And then there was all this controversy on last Saturday afternoon about the burial fund. I don't know about the rest of you, but burials make us all rather uncomfortable. Anyhow, that was an innocent little fund that people, before they qualified for Medicaid, would set up their own burials. And that was fine. You could do that. If you picked out potentially $1 million burial, if you wanted to do that, nobody was going to touch it. The funeral directors made a couple little pennies on some of those that were done ahead of time. They wanted to get rid of it totally. We went back and forth. The funeral directors came out against it, rightfully so. I was told it was in there only to find over the weekend that the fund was still intact in the budget language. So there's always lots of, conversations after we have the crucial conversation. So those things are back in there. There's no change to the local administrative cap. That's the cap where I pay the staff salaries. So because in that Medicaid program, remember there's several different caps and that's one of them. The state wants to take back the cap because they want the state to do those cases. And that's why we think they want to get rid of the burial fund too. So it'll be easier for the state to take over those cases. So that's still intact. However, keep an eye on this. The metric used to set the global cap spending was from a 10-year rolling average to a 5-year rolling average, according to the federal CMS Medicaid spending projections. The problem is the caseload continues to expand. We have over 14,000 people eligible. On the numbers I gave you, I'm only accountable for about 3,500. That's going to continue to expand. And we're wondering how long is that cap going to last before they're going to come back and they're going to say we owe poor and the weak share. So that's what we're kind of worried about. On the home care staffing crisis, this is a big number, a very big number, but it's not enough money because it's a big problem. They're adding $7.7 billion over 4 years to increase minimum wages for the home care workers. Guess how much that ends up being once they hit year 4 on an hourly basis? It increases their salary by $3. So $7.7 billion only represents $3. I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't think that's gonna save our home care crisis for $3 when people weren't being paid for mileage and all the rest of those things. So this is why this budget isn't really good for DSS. There's changes for us. The Medicaid one is really the most complicated one. We need to keep our eyes on that. There's some thought that once COVID ends and we stop getting the second EF map, the COVID EF map, and the rules change, that a lot of people should be taken off those roles. I'm thinking we may not see that here in Greene. You know, I mean, there's jobs available. I'm not seeing the employers offering that health insurance that you can get through under Medicaid. So that was just some kind of, you know, high level to make you think. But please call me, come in to see me. It's fun. We have lots of fun, lots of moving pieces. And all this stuff, right?
Kara, I have a few questions here. Going back, when you said you did these investigations to stop fraud and it amounted to about 700, or just over 700,000.
Yep, 717, yep.
Does the county pay the labor for the investigation?
There was 2 fraud investigators that did that over the past year. Yeah.
Okay, and do you get to keep that
No,
money
no,
saved?
That's not
to
money that comes
reallocate?
back. That's a cost avoidance. No, that's.
Yeah, it's cost avoidance.
It's a fraud
Cost
and detection.
avoidance?
You applied for 10, you only deserve 7.
Right,
We found the 3 that you overstated.
okay,
It's what we call feds referral. So every case on public assistance, there's a feds referral.
okay.
I have 10 days to do that.
The next item, this metric for this global cap.
Yeah.
When you say global cap, does it mean
Okay, so there's
the
poison.
poor around the world or something?
No,
or-
no. Okay, so it's New York State. What they did is that before we had this money, before we even realized there was we ever heard the terminology of COVID, the counties, the previous administration blamed the counties for increasing the spending in Medicaid. And they put these poison pills that once you hit certain thresholds, that automatically there would be cuts. It would start out with cuts to the hospital administration, to the reimbursement to doctors, any Medicaid provider, biller.
So Governor Cuomo set the rules and then complained because when someone came in to fill out the application that they met, it's our fault that the cost goes up.
So we've kind of gone through those global caps because the program has become so big. It's just absolutely massive. So now they're changing it. So that's going to give them a few more dollars. We're changing the metrics so that the cap becomes a little bit higher for them. They're going to have to continue to do that or something else is going to have to happen in the program.
Whether it's Medicaid or what the state helps out is, are there funds that are expended on people here illegally in this country? Who enter this country illegally, are they allowed
So
to receive
illegal
this kind of
alien-
care?
Okay, the only, to answer your question, on the Medicaid side, illegal aliens are eligible for emergency Medicaid, so that's in a hospital.
Okay.
So you're in a car accident, they're gonna do the surgery to stabilize you.
Gotcha.
You will not be able to get the medications once you leave the door. You can't get any ongoing therapy. So there's nothing that's really gonna be outside the doors of those hospitals.
Okay. All right, and the last question is on the homeless. I've noticed, at least in the Catskill area, a couple of people who are homeless that I don't know if they are receiving shelter, but they don't look like they're receiving shelter. And I only mean that it may have nothing to do with you. Disheveled, the same clothes. I didn't know if,
Pulling the old style shopping cart behind it?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if,
I know exactly what you're talking about. So
Okay.
I have a team in the field every single day. We're taking care of people, we're engaging people, we're trying to do the right thing to make sure that they're stable. Unfortunately, without the county owning something totally and totally being in charge, we use hotels that are owned by other people who they run businesses. They can take clients from any other county. It is no secret that Columbia and Ulster County place their clients within Greene. We run into this all the time. There's problems. They deal with their homeless very differently. We find if we engage with them and we get them into rehab or whatever they may need, we end up with a different outcome.
okay,
That 19 that she referred to now probably is what I would call a truly homeless person. Someone probably has mental health issues. Double that. What's that?
We were double that.
Yeah, well, at some point, about 18 months ago, we were at 70 people.
sure.
That's, that number come down. It probably is a little bit of a wave over the years, but the definition of homeless is a little nebulous at best. But that 19 is truly, probably the person you see in a park bench with wrapped in newspapers versus somebody who's out of their luck at the moment and needs a place to stay and they can't couch surf anymore or something like that.
I just didn't know if there's if they're receiving watching as a homeless person, how can there not be some type of measurement of, hey, we need you to wear these donated clothes that are clean or whatever, and kind of get them back on a, whether you want to call it a civil path or something, rather than wearing the same things every
Case
day.
management, when the case managers are in a different county,
Okay,
are they coming up here to interview and review
Right,
and talk to
right,
the
they're just
person?
paying the bill and not worrying about anything
Right.
else.
Yeah, I often call my peers in the other counties and say, really? And,
Okay.
and the worst case for Kyra's perspective is when they don't advise us that they're placing a person, that person could be a sex offender,
No idea.
and they're placing them in a hotel that we're using for a family. Now I have a sex offender next door to a family, and we didn't know it. So when Kyra called me a couple times with a Mayday, I'll call Columbia or I'll call Ulster to say, we understand you have an issue, maybe you don't have enough rooms, but you gotta tell us.
Right.
You can't leave us blind on this because you don't know who we're placing where. And we get lip service and it works for a week, and then next thing we know, we're right back with it.
So I'm not here to diminish the hard work you put in and with NISAC and Sean and other people from around the county, but at the end of the day, we really got nowhere with the state.
From the DSS budget, you're right, I got nowhere. But
New stadium come.
New stadium,
Yeah.
right? Right.
But the county may not be that bad. I mean, it's interesting. The first time in my career I've seen so much money. The state government was flush with money, and it really didn't come back down into those public programs.
And I'm sure there's probably some law, but what legal issue is there to you just providing what the state or federal government provides? If they don't provide the full funding for their programs, which they're required to do, and the programs that require more spending, is there any legal objection to you saying, sorry, folks, but we're allotted this amount of money, and at that point,
No,
that's it?
no, we're a creation of the state. The state created Greene County, they dictate the rules.
So it's an unfunded mandate that you're on the hook for.
Correct.
It was,
Correct.
And there are some programs that have limits.
Caps.
Caps, once you get to that level of spending, I'm sorry, there's no more available.
Right.
He would be an example of that. Once that money's gone, the money's gone.
Cat is there.
So do you take part when it comes to Medicaid? Do you take part in seeing if these are necessary medical expenditures for poor people?
no, so what we do is we turn on the eligibility for Medicaid. We don't get into the healthcare side to make a
Okay.
decision what was medically necessary.
Okay. Is that a state does that or something? A state?
Well,
The guideline is, we're
Department?
running the thresholds, we gotta click the boxes that the state sets. You click this box, we don't set those rules, we just determine whether or not that box is eligible to be clicked.
Okay. Gotcha.
Is there any mechanism in place for, say, a family comes to you, they, none of them are working, they need help, is there any kind of program within what we do where we help them to find jobs to get back?
Oh, yeah, there's a-
Because I feel like it's become, the system was meant to be a bridge, to kind of help people, get over that. And I feel like for a lot of people, it's become more of a way of life, just.
okay,
And do we have something where we ask them to, we'll help you find a job,
to get public assistance, you have to be working if you're able to work. The numbers that I give you every single month, when I do the 3 years, for the month of March on temporary assistance, there was 190 cases that represented 314 individuals. 80% of that are children only. So when I pulled it apart, I had 26 working people on the caseload because I follow those numbers. I mean, I could spend a couple hours and show that for you, what we do. So we conciliate them, and then they get assigned to some of our friends' work sites. So they go to the recycling center if they can't find their own job. So there's C websites that we use. We use that as a motivator for people to get jobs, but there's a lot of jobs. If you look at the numbers, you can see my SSI caseload has fallen. We've lost a lot of those people to a lot of different illnesses over the last 2 years. There were quite a few of them were very frail. So the public assistance caseloads have really dropped, and it's grandparents and aunts and uncles who are coming in asking for a few dollars for taking care of the kids. And actually, we're going to the college again to meet with that program about the work programs. Are there other questions? Because I could talk for hours and entertain you all. Well, we're good.
Thank you.
No, we're happy to have you at the table.
Think about
I can be back quicker.
Ken, did you want to talk?
what, going up?
Do you want to? It's up to you. Ken Brooks, our interim director, is it?
Hello, everyone. One of the things that Ruth has recently brought to our attention, and this was when Terry was still here, several of our volunteers have expressed concern about the mileage reimbursement that we pay them versus the cost of gas lately. Our volunteers get 50 cents a mile for doing the home delivered meals and the medical transportation. We average between 8,000 and 9,000 miles a month, which is anywhere between $4,000 and $4,500 a month. And they would like to be able to get reimbursed by the IRS rate. They wanted us to propose going up to 58.5 cents. And if the IRS rate changes next year and it goes down, it'll follow through. I mean, for the years I've been here, the IRS rate's never been below the 50 cents that they've been getting paid since Tom was here. I tried to find out exactly when it happened, but I think, I mean, the papers have been lost, or it was pre-Terry and it was sometime during Tom being the director. So we wanted to propose to see if we could change the rate. It would affect our budget approximately $900 a month and about $10,000 a year. Cheap compared to what the other people are spending around here. So, but it is not more. It's nothing compared to what Warren's spending, but it'll affect our budget by about $10,000 a year. And, you know, right now we are losing volunteers. They're aging out. They don't want to do it right now. COVID has really discouraged a lot of our volunteers. And with us being so close to getting all of our centers reopened, I really don't want to have to knock anything back because the volunteers are stuck, you know, aren't delivering. So the proposal is to change it from 50 cents a mile to the IRS reimbursement rate, and currently it's at 58.5 cents.
And have you seen as the number of meals or anything declined through?
We have.
Or so, or?
Some of the COVID, since the COVID restrictions have gone down a little bit, we have about 108 meals that we're delivering for clients that are under the MDD, which is Major Disaster Declaration that the state has lovingly put upon us. So we're down to about 108. When it first started, we were over 300 extra meals a day. So it is coming down. More and more people are getting out and buying their own groceries and getting their own meals, but it's still extra work on the volunteers. We're still not allowed to go into the clients' homes yet, so the volunteers it takes them a little bit longer, because when they deliver the meal, they have to stop. They call the client, you know, we're here, or they ring the doorbell. They put the meal on a table outside the door, back up a little bit, wait till the client comes to the door and gets the meal, and then they go on their way. They can't leave a meal unless somebody answers the door. So, you know, it's a little more tedious for the volunteers. A lot of them don't like doing it that way. A lot of our clients don't like doing it that way because they like the one-on-one. They used to love when the volunteers would come in and, you know, set the meal up on their dining room table and talk to the clients a little bit. They still really miss that, and the loneliness factor has gone up quite a bit, but it's turning around. We're getting more and more open, and I'm hoping that our wonderful governor lifts this MDD eventually. And when the MDD is listed, those that are on meals right now under the MDD will have to be assessed to see if they actually do qualify for a home delivered meal based on the New York State guidelines. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 3 proposed action items. Number 1 is authorizing a lease to the Hudson Valley National Center for Veteran Reintegration, Inc. I would like to move that. Do we have a second? Who seconded it?
Handle.
Handle. Bloomer, Handle. Anybody opposed?
Michelle is here too.
Would you like to?
I didn't really have anything prepared to say. I was just here in case there were questions.
Okay, all right.
Unless you'd like me to stand up there, I'd be happy to.
We're good, we're good. Now I'm off track here, you know. We have a first and we have a mover and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Increased mileage reimbursement, Department of Human Services Aging, Home Delivered Meal Program, and Medical Transportation Volunteers Program. I will move that. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We do have a second. Okay, Linda, seconds. We have, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Harry.
Welcome.
3, we have appointing Greene County Coroner Edward Brandt. I had a conversation earlier with Legislator Lennon. You are moving this.
Yes, I am.
And I understand.
I'm seconding.
Legislator True is seconding it. I will, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right.
Lost all control here.
Motion carried. Is there anything else for county services this evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
I think he's got a little time lapse going on there.
He's still eating, that's what it is.
Last week's cupcakes.
Way back.
It looks like that.
I'd like to bring Public Works Committee to order at 6:52. Have first that's here. Start with the first, okay?
No.
We have Bill Smith here from Buildings and Grounds.
I can't keep up.
Everybody's saying I talk fast. How did you beat me? Slide you not up there.
No emails from you tonight. I haven't seen everybody in a few months. Just want to give a brief what we've been doing this past winter. November, December, great. January came, punched us quite a bit. We had a lot of failures, a lot of issues, all up and working again. Freeze ups, Ashland Highway had a frozen pipe, broken water line, took care of right away. Coxsackie Transfer Station, rats chewed through some lines up there. The heat tape went out, froze some lines, broke some lines up there. We took care of that. Wyndham Transfer, same issue. Some rats got into the heat tape. They had more issues in Wyndham between the water tank, the sewer lines, and the water lines all froze up there. We called Huber in for that one. Actually, I put out several phone calls. Huber's the only one that answered up and took care of that job for us. Because again, we were tied up with some other things in January. We had 2 gas pumps go down here in Catskill and in Caro. The nitrogen system, it was so cold, it went below the allowed amount and set the alarms off. Once the fire alarms go off, the pumps shut right down. We had to call the company in. We pumped a little more, whatever stuff they put into the system to put the pressure up to get those going again. So we had those issues with no gas for a couple of days in the area. Frozen sewer line out in Scotts Lane. We haven't had that issue in probably 3 years, 4 years. I don't know since you've been here or not, but there's a pump station at Scotts Lane that takes the water and pumps it to the back of the property. And it's not that deep and it's always plowed off. So there's no snow protection, nothing. So that froze up. So I talked to Jim Wilson this year. We're going to try to look to maybe redirect that or insulate it, do something different with that, because every 4 weeks or 5 weeks, I think, Scott, you got to have the tank pumped out to keep it working. So we had an issue with that. That's all up and working again. Heat problems, Rivertown Senior Center went down. Ended up being that there was we have two different systems out there. We have a propane heating system and an oil heating system. The oil is a buried tank which got some water into it, which caused the system to go out. It was at night. Again, put phone calls out. Huber was the only one to answer up. He went out. This year, we're going to look at taking the oil system and converting it to LP. So it'll just be straight LP and get that oil tank out of the ground before we do have an issue out there. So that's something we're working on this year as well. The 911 center, we lost heat in one of the units out there. It took us about a day to get the system up and working, only because the only place we can locate the system was out in Syracuse to match what we needed to go into that building. So once again, Huber answered up. He really bailed us out this year. He met them in Utica, got the unit, came in the next day, put the system in, and up and working. Unfortunately, being new systems that they are, it's 410A, not R22 anymore. So all the air conditioning had to be changed out as well as the heating system. What happened was it's a 20-year-old system. The heat exchanger went bad into it. It cut the thermal overload and it just wouldn't stay running. It wasn't the 911 center itself. It was just in the offices that went out. The 911 center, I had talked to Sean about that too, is we do have a backup system in the 911 center. I put two systems in probably 5 years ago. So now if one system does go down, I can go out there, I can switch the switch over and we have heat going or air conditioning, whatever it may be. Mental health, we had broken heat lines. On the return side, it's very corrosive, so all the threads started eating away. From day one, we had one leak. By day 3, when we had to fix it, we had 18 leaks. It was all in a small area. Huber had the tools that he cut everything out and pressed in, so we have no more threaded joints. If the threaded joint is thin, that's where everything rotted out. So we eliminated those threaded joints on the return part of it and replaced everything at that point. Here at 411, had 2 units go down in the 2-week period. This is all within 2 weeks in January that this was going on. We had 2 units here go down, and in our shop, our unit went out. We took care of the units in this building ourselves, and we took care of our unit at our shop ourselves. We helped solid waste. They had one of the doors broke down. We helped them get that fixed. They had a new driver from County Waste, took the handrails down twice up there. So we got that all fixed up for them up there. The ice storm, I forgot, I think it was the end of January, we had the ice storm. That normally for us, we use about 50 tons of salt between Cairo, Catskill, and Coxsackie for all the locations. That one particular storm, we went through 28 tons of salt. Luckily, Scott was able to keep us supplied with salt. I think there was only one time we couldn't get it, but we had enough to get us through. But they did a great job of getting us salt every time we needed. But we went through quite a bit of salt this year because of the amount of ice we had. Snow, we didn't have much snow, a couple inches here, 4 inches there, but we had no major storms, but the ice storm really put a hurt onto us this year. We had 3 more damaged roofs this year, the salt shed in Scotts Lane, the salt shed in Hunter, and the Freight Master at the Point all have wind damage, pretty good wind damage that they're all leaking. We keep trying to tarp them, but the areas that they're in, the wind keeps blowing tarps. We put extra shingles down, it keeps blowing off. I just had a roof company last week come out. We visited 8 locations for new roof replacements. For some reason, Scott has most of them. I think because you got the oldest buildings in the county. But the Freehold has 2 roofs. One is actively leaking in Freehold. One is not leaking at this point, but they looked at that one as well. The salt shed in Hunter, the salt shed in Scotts Lane, Ashland Garage has been leaking for the past 9 years since I've been here. The Catskill Highway Garage over here has a active leaking roof. The Freight Master is actively leaking, and the 911 center is about ready to. We was there, it's 20 years old. We checked it while I had the company out looking at the roofs. We found many faults in the roof. It's starting to buckle, it's delaminating. All of the vents that come to the roof, all the boots that go around them, every single one of them is cracked and leaking on those. So again, the company's giving us an evaluation of the roofs, what needs to be done to the roofs, and then we can go from there as far as pricing. But out of the 8 roofs we visited, there's 6 of them that's actively leaking as of right now, and 2 that's going to be leaking here pretty quickly. Other than that, January ended, February caught up. March is, now we're ready to do some mowing, but I said January was a pretty rough month for us. Can't find anybody who wants to work. I've had 3 retired out. I got 1 that's out of surgery, 1 that just went to military. So it's me and 2 other people right now running the county. I got 2 in Caro and 2 in Cooksaki, and there's 3 of us that run the rest of the county right now. So we're really short-handed. So we're doing what we can as best as we can, prioritizing what we have to. And I said, some things may not get done right away, but I'm well aware of it, and we're trying to do what we can. So, but we have applications out, and nobody wants to work for $15 an hour. So.
There was this question for you or Sean as much, but the roofs that were damaged by wind, would insurance cover that?
Sure, less than deductible. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I said, so when we can start getting the numbers together, then I got to meet with Sean to see how we're going to, and then Scott as well. When I talked to Scott, we're trying to make it, see if we do one package. It'll be a 2-year thing, because even like the roof company said, right now you can't find the manpower to fix the roofs, and you can't get the material to fix the roofs either. Material's been a major issue with everything we've been doing, just right down to our heat pumps and changing stuff around. Is just getting materials is a major issue. So I said, again, luckily, Dale Huber answered up on several calls, but I said, we called people and they just were busy themselves. They couldn't get materials, they're busy, they just couldn't help us.
Bill, what about our new correctional facility here? Is that the same situation where it's hard to get parts you would need, and that could hamper?
As of right now, it's not hard to get the parts, because nothing, the things that's failing out there, we've been able to repair. We haven't had a lot of, it's more of a learning thing out there right now. We're not getting a lot of help from the companies that install the stuff. We're figuring stuff out on our own. Tyrone's doing a great job out there with this. He's answered up to this task out there, because there's been some pretty good failures out there that he's figured out that people couldn't give him answers to. Even people that installed it wouldn't call us back. There's been parts that was left to us as spare parts. We go to use the spare parts, we open the box and find out it's a broken part. That when they put the part in, they must have took this part into this box and put it over here and said that's your spare part and it's broken. So luckily C-Pod ain't open, so we've been stripping C-Pod to run A and D. So when they get ready to do C-Pod, there's parts they're gonna have to replace that we can't get. They tell us we gotta order them out of California, and California say, no, you can't get the parts here, but it's on the Acorn system. So it's just trying to find the parts at this point, because it's fairly new and they won't make repair parts yet. So.
None of the companies are being held to the fire.
Oh, we still have retainages, and
we still get the punch list stuff and stuff like that.
We're still under warranty. We're still rebalancing the building. And this is only the first winter we've gone through. So it'll take 2 seasons probably to really balance the building.
It's stupid little things, but it's a big building. One of the inmates tried to set a fire out there in the microwave. He set the fire alarm system off, which caused all the heat to shut down in APOD. And the fire alarm would not reset to get the heat back on. So this went on for 6 hours. We could not figure this out. So finally, a train come down and disarmed the alarm from the heat to turn the heat on. And the 2 companies were going back and forth, say it's not our issue. Ended up being also they had to do at their office and just push reset on the computer and reset the alarm, and everything was fine. So it's stupid little things, but it's not stupid.
Law strikes again.
But it just takes a little bit to figure out. But again, Tyrone's been doing a great job in figuring it out and working through everything. So it's good. Other than that, all quiet for a change. So.
Records management building isn't leaking right now?
No, that's been good. That's been holding. We checked out. I go in there once a month maybe just to see, but it's temporary. I don't know how long it's gonna. The sidewall's still sliding. The dirt, if you look at the dirt, it's still sliding over top, so it's still sliding a little bit, but the wall is actually holding, and the roof's not pulling apart right now. We sealed that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We have no leaks in that roof whatsoever. So yes.
Check
So
tomorrow.
no, I already checked it last week after the major storm we had. So, but other than that, we're pretty good. So.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
All right.
January was terrible.
It was a challenging month.
Thank you, Bill. I'm tired.
I think a couple months starting for you, Scott.
It can't get worse than this, right?
I will run through this as quickly as possible. Cannery 22 Bridge is going to be in construction this week. So hopefully all those resolutions pass. We have federal and state authorization, so the money is there. Cannery 83, unfortunately, we are in right-of-way delays. We're working with our right-of-way consultant to try to iron out those, but it looks like Hunter Mountain is in Vail Resorts. We're coming to a stopping point, trying to figure out who can give us right-of-way clearance on that. So it looks like we're going to go into condemnation for that process. I know that's something that we tried to avoid. We spoke to several people in Vail Resorts, and it sounds like they're completely on board with the project. They don't have no issues with the right-of-way takings. It's just they can't get authorization to sign any of the clearance certificates. So that process has begun. County 40 and 61, we have received the master state and local agreements from DOT, so we can start the preliminary design and right-of-way process. Timberlake and Bloomer Road, also, we have run into right-of-way issues. Bloomer Road, I think we've come to a headway and we can figure that one out. Timberlake, unfortunately, we cannot. So the right-of-way consultants are still working on that. County Route 17, June 15th is when we can get back into the stream. So hopefully that'll start up roughly around June, July.
Is that also Evergreen?
That is correct. County Route 2, we've just sent out, finalized the design of the culvert. We were trying to finalize the actual size of it. We were going back and forth with Greene County Soil and Water, and we've finally figured out what the size of that structure should be. We've sent it out to fabrication shops to find out what the costs are. Even if the costs come back, great. We're not sure if we can actually get it fabricated in time to begin the construction period for this year. It is June 15th through September 30th. If we can't get the fabricated structure by late in the year, really is no incentive to start the work if we can't get the structure. County Route 20, we met with the contractors. They should give us a price next week. That was on the bottom of the list. It's moving to the top of the list now because it's one of the few that we have confirmation of the design and fabrication of the beams. So hopefully we can get that. And we spoke to the property owners. All property owners are on board. So just move right up to the top of the list. Plattville Road, we're still waiting for SHPO review of the design alternatives. The further along we get in construction period, it looks like this might be on hold until next year. So, hey,
When would you think you would know?
there's, because of the different design alternatives, there's ones that the schedule is critical. Takes a lot longer to construct. If they choose that, then most likely it's not going to happen this year. If they choose the alternate option, then there's still a possibility of going. We've been reaching out to them on a weekly basis, same as our engineering firms, try to give us some sort of an answer, some sort of a direction, because the engineering firms aren't going to go full bore on design until they get a confirmation of at least a direction on where to head.
Do you have a date that's the dead end date? Like if it goes past this point, we won't be able to do it?
No, not without a final design from the engineering firm. They've given us preliminary designs. We're not going to know exactly until we get the final designs. So hoping they go with the shorter construction one, so we can actually get that one. Ideally, we can get that done this year if they give us a confirmation by the end of this month. So. Paving season, we have ordered culvert pipes and we're scheduling our replacement of those culvert pipes for all the roads that are on the paving list. The asphalt plants are opening up, so hopefully we can start permanently patching some of the holes that have arisen during this winter. I know that's a big issue. We've assisted several municipalities for equipment hauling and tree removal. For the highway side, we have an agenda that it's up for a resolution that's amending the time, doing the 4 10-hour days this summer. I think it worked last year. I think if we control our employees to get out there and our road crews to get out there early and to stay out there as long as possible. This paving season is going to be quite long. We have over 20 miles of road that need to be paved, a lot of culverts that need to be switched out. So the longer we're on the road, switching those culverts out, the more production we can get. We also have 2 items on the agenda. One, authorizing the engineering services for County Route 1 culvert in the town of Halkett. We also have applying for CWC funding for that structure as well. This is the first time that we're actually requesting direct funding from CWC. So hopefully the process works out well and we can continue with working with them to replace another culvert out there in Halkett that desperately needs to be replaced.
That culvert out in Halkett, that's, you planned on doing some paving out there as well, and that would happen after the replacement?
Correct.
Are you still planning on paving out there this year?
Not the likelihood of that happening. We'll do patching, absolutely, but full paving now.
Be off at least a year.
Until this culvert is replaced. And like I said, this is the first time working with CWC, so I'm not sure how quickly their process works. I guess we'll switch over to solid waste. The Coxsackie transfer station is in construction right now. Jerson Construction Company has begun. They've started excavation. Unfortunately, with all the rain, it created a pond out there and they're working through the process. They've been dewatering activities for quite some time. It seems to be draining out quickly. It's just when we get an excessive amount of rain, it holds up construction for a while. We do have an item on the agenda for discussion to expand hours at the Hunter Transfer Station. We would like to bring it to 6 days a week. Is that correct?
Wait, you want to bring it to 6 days a week?
Well, that's what is proposed to bring it is Hunter Transfer Station to 6 days a week. Currently, it is 5 days a week.
But previously, it was 6 days a week.
Yes.
It was put down to
They were
5.
all
because
6 days a week. They were swapping people between stations.
Yeah, pre-construction of the new facility, it was open 6 days a week. Post-construction of the facility and different operations, it is down to 5 days a week. Like I said, it's a different operation than it was pre.
Right.
And we have far more waste coming into all the stations in Greene County. But
What's it look like manpower though? You have people to.
Currently staffed, we would have to hire additional employees to staff that for the additional 6 days.
What are we talking overall cost?
We're estimated around $200,000.
$250,000 for a day to take garbage?
It would require additional 2 people to operate the station.
That was to also be incorporated with the other 3 stations opening up 6 days.
It could possibly keep Wyndham open, Wyndham and Hunter, but it wouldn't allow us to do all the stations.
And they did ask Sean to call you to see, I know in the last time we did it by volunteer overtime. And I was wondering if you canvassed anybody to see if there was any interest in anybody doing like they did last time.
Well, I could certainly ask for volunteers for overtime, but I can't force them to do overtime. So
No, I know, but
they
I'm just
could-
saying they did it before. I just wondered if they would be interested in doing it again. In today's economic climate, I would imagine the people are scrambling for a couple extra bucks everywhere.
But I can't budget.
I didn't say, I mean, if there's an overwhelming, if everybody says, yeah, I want to do it, the one need is much out.
How many
many days are the other transfer stations open?
They are all open 5 days a week.
So everybody else is 5 days a week. Hunter wants 6 days at a cost of $200,000? I'm sorry, Darryl.
It was actually 150,000 for the first year and 100,000 the second year. because you're higher. And Patty, I'm not asking for 100, I was asking for all the other 3 stations, because Catskill's open 6 days a week, 5 to public, 6 to the heavy haulers. Hunter's a heavy hauler station, so it would increase the amount of loads that they can take to there as well. It's not the same as Cooksaki and Hunter, which now next year, Cooksaki's probably gonna be a heavy hauler as well.
Correct, direct.
So,
Be a direct
you're-
hauler.
right, so you're increasing your ability to take the garbage in.
But is it going to increase the amount of garbage you're taking in, or just the amount of days people can come and bring their garbage?
Right.
To me, it just seems like a lot of money for convenience.
Well, I
You know,
talked to the
I
haulers.
think that the people, I think that the heavy haulers should gauge when they're bringing their stuff in, the days that they're open. It's just, I mean, if it were, $20,000, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. 200,000 is a lot of money for convenience, in my opinion.
Well, you
But I
gotta
thought we
figure how much.
switched to this model to
Right.
save money, so basically we'll be paying for itself. So before,
With a direct haul.
right.
Right.
And
We're also
that's
closed 2
basically,
days in the middle of the week that the contractor's working.
Well,
Yeah, but
change
there's-
the days that we're open, but like I said, you would think that they would realize, I know for us, when we bring our garbage in, we know what days the transfer station is open, and those are the days we bring our truck and we dump.
Well, actually, we're not doing this for us, our constituents. It's for the haulers and the contractors, because they're the ones that bring all the revenue to you and I. The garbage amount we take doesn't amount to anything. These heavy haulers and the contractors are the ones that are using it the most, bringing the most in and increasing what comes in.
Darryl, do you understand where I'm coming from? I don't think they're going to bring more to dump.
Well,
Because
they
it's only
are.
6 days. I think it's gonna be the same amount that they're dumping.
Well,
Just-
that's not true,
I-
because I talked to these people that do the hauling. They want it open 7 days. a
Well, of
week.
course they do.
Well, yeah, because they can move a full rig every day, all day long. So of course they're gonna bring more in.
Wait, so heavy haulers are picking up garbage on Saturdays and Sundays? I thought they worked 5 days a week.
The dumpster guys. With their metal dumpsters that.
No roll-offs and,
Yeah, but I thought you had it scheduled when we went to this model that went between Hunter and Wyndham, they have 7 days of coverage.
The only day that it's not open is Wednesday.
Wednesday, so there's 6 days of coverage already on the mountaintop
Yes,
with the 2 transfer sites.
And they alternate the days off, except Wednesday.
except for Wednesday.
I mean, I know that you guys are obviously gaining because of the additional tonnage coming in. So the
We're gaining.
facility's kind of paying for itself, I would assume, right?
Absolutely.
We be careful with that. Be
Right.
careful.
Well,
The system still runs a deficit.
it is,
The overall system is still in a deficit.
we are saving more money by a direct haul.
Right. That, what used to get hauled from the mountain back to Catskill to be rehandled,
Correct.
that's gonna be a savings.
Right.
On an annual basis, but the overall system, the operation of the 4 transfer stations, and then
Right.
whatever we do with the towns and villages on recycling, the overall department, if you will, it still runs a deficit on an annual basis.
so let me ask you then, if we're concerned so much about money. We bought a composting machine, right?
Correct.
About $70,000, and it's down in Catskill.
Correct.
It holds 1,000 pounds, that's half a ton. And then it runs for 24 hours on electric heat, and then it produces compost.
Reduces 90%.
Right. So how many days does it take to fill it up? And we don't charge for it because people get it for free. We gotta buy the bags and stuff.
Well, we got a grant, 75% grant to pay for that machine.
Still money, you're still running on electric. And,
It's also reducing the amount of.
well, that's my, well, all right, so it's reducing it a half a ton every time it runs, right? So how many times a week you fill it up? So it does a half a ton. So if you fill it twice a week, you're doing a ton a week at what, 115?
This is simply what the residents put in a container in their kitchen. This isn't,
No, I know, but so I'm wondering how it's gonna save money. This is just a convenience for,
Well, this is a pilot, right?
Right.
Eventually, all
that's
transfer
where we can
stations
roll
will
it out
have
to
this.
all, yeah, all stations
We
get
don't,
this.
we don't even know what people will embrace this yet. It's only been in operation 2 weeks or a month or,
Right.
so it just.
Hopefully it's very successful and we
Right.
can roll it out to the other stations.
no, but I'm saying we do things that cost money. It's not
Apples and
everything.
oranges here. We're not talking about the same thing.
And where are we gonna get the workers? They're just beating down your door to get hired, aren't they?
I mean, even if we had people available today that wanted to get hired, you're talking 10, 11 weeks, 12 weeks before they would even start. And that's if we had somebody and we don't. So we'd have to go through the interview process.
Background. But what as far as like collective bargaining? I mean, they're entitled to 2 days of rest. I mean,
And that's,
you don't have the manpower. I mean.
and I'm sure, listen, I'm sure that our employees there are some that would like to work overtime, but I cannot budget and bank on the fact that they're gonna be there every day that it's
Right.
open.
And that's still an added cost that was in the budget, the overtime.
You have a guy taking time and a half.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you're not saving anything there either.
Well, it's hard, it's our legacy costs. And insurance.
Yeah, I don't see it.
And you still gotta figure out how much you're gonna take in that extra day. Is it worth it? I mean, how much you take in on an average day?
Well, you gotta figure out if they're then taking the garbage somewhere else. Or are they did they make plans and then they're still coming on the
Well, there's
6
only,
days?
there's
the
only two
mountaintop's
places the big haulers can go, and that's Catskill. They do go as Catskill and Hunter.
Well, the big haul, the big haulers.
Oh, yeah, but they won't.
Big haulers have a
I'm saying this-
Yeah, but the big haulers, have they contacted you or Paul? About, I mean, is there a suggestion box at these places where they contact you guys? So you get some information, some type of documentation about how many people could use this or whatever?
I have not heard from our big supplier, our big contractors, the County Waste, the Superiors, the Welshes,
Would it be worth calling them and asking them if it would?
we've reached out to them and
They don't
yeah,
come
of
back?
course, they would love to have 7 days a week. But they're also getting $30 a ton less to go there.
I was just gonna ask, are they still as willing to be open 7 days a week if they charge $25 more a ton?
Right, to pay for it.
Because it is a commercial station and prepaid accounts get at the high volume rate, which is $30 cheaper than the regular rate that you would have to pay at Wyndham and Coxsackie at this point.
7 days a week if you want to charge a higher price.
But you don't feel the amount of volume is going
Well,
to.
the current volume right now, even if it was at the full, would not pay for the additional
I'm
expense.
not gonna get the extra volume to make up the expense.
Yeah, I think the extra expense, if you went up $5 or $10 or $20 a ton, is immediately gonna send that forward somewhere else.
I think we made a good decision with making them the direct hauls, so I really don't wanna go back to what we were doing.
We're certainly saving money by making it a direct haul. I think that the least number of times that we handle the waste is
Correct.
far more efficient. And that's what the goal was of at Hunter, and that's the goal at Coxsackie. Direct haul straight from the station. Any other questions?
Thank you. One more question. Up in Tannersville, the culvert pipe that goes over the discharge out of Tannersville Lake and where the Gooseberry and Tannersville come together at the end of Railroad Avenue.
Okay.
There's a culvert pipe that replaced the bridge probably 35 years ago. That's actually failing. Has anybody talked to you about that? And nobody's reached out, because I'm not sure what happened. I think something happened back there when they took the bridge out and made it a culvert pipe. And it's starting.
What road is this on?
It's on Railroad Avenue. It's the end of Railroad. You go around the corner where Cold Spring is. What's that road that Cold Spring's on? I can't remember that ever.
It's right down the top of your shop.
Yeah. I can't. I never remember it, but there is a bin number on it. I know that. I asked.
If it is, if there is a bin number, then it is a bridge. It is a bridge, but I'm not, well, I'll certainly go and have somebody go take a look at it. If it is a bridge, then it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable in the fact that DOT inspects it on a biannual basis. So if there's anything structurally,
It's caving in it. The apex of the culvert pipe collapsed in, and now it's all the way across. 2 years ago, they dug it up and did a half-ass patch on it. But now it's all the way across, and I was just wondering if anybody ever contacted the county about.
if it is, like I said, if it is a bridge, then it is inspected biannually by New York State DOT. If it's a culvert, then we'll have to.
So if I
take a
get you
look
that
at it.
number, we should go.
If it's a VIN number, yeah, that's easy. I can give you all the inspection on that structure for 30 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so was a couple of repairs that were taken around for County Route 61 last year in that slide area.
Yes. We actually had Dave Brogan from, I forgot what outfit he's from. He actually went and took a look at 6 of our slides, and just to come up with a more cost-effective alternative. Because that slide is, unfortunately, we figured out that paving over those slides doesn't work. So
The road is shifting too.
it's unfortunately the road is shifting again, and it's active, same as up in Prattsville too. But we had the engineering firm that he works for take a look at that. There's called soil nail launchers. It's something new that we've never used before, but they're coming up with different proposals on doing it.
Sounds cool.
It's.
We're gonna nail the road. That's a big nail.
Actually, yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. And it's, they drill the nails in and they anchor the slope, and then you can build on top of it. It's far more cost effective than doing complete excavation, because some of these slides, the total slope is 150, 200 feet down. So this is something that we're trying to figure out. He's been running around the Northeast fixing repairs, so he hasn't come up with a cost or actual cost for us, but we are looking into using that. Quite interesting.
But no idea when he's gonna have a proposal.
He was supposed to be coming to us last week. Hopefully this week he can come here and actually do some surveys and measure. Hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have a solution to at least some of them. But yes, 61, 2, they've all become active again. Yeah, if it's not snow, it's rain, and it's causing all sorts of more issues. Single stream facility that we put up for authorization to go out to bid. The bid results have come in for Catskill, at the Catskill transfer station. They've come in around $1.7 million. This single stream facility, it really is an out for us for Greene County to continue to accept recycling for free at all of our transfer station, as well as to service all the towns that we currently have right now. whether it's Durham, Greenville, soon to be Caro. We pick up their recycling. We do not charge anything. If this station, does Catskill Transfer Station recycling building isn't built, we're going to struggle to continue to do that. Our current temporary facility in the back of Catskill is was only that. It was temporary, and it's becoming more and more difficult to operate back there. This station, we charge the commercial haulers to go over our scale. There's a tipping fee that we charge them. With this charge, we can, if there is a payoff time, I know that we like to see a payoff time. It's roughly around 10, 12 years, depending on how much recycling we have come through this single stream. But there is an opportunity. New York State has a tremendous amount of grant possibilities. Grant funding on this would be 50%. So that would cut our payoff time by 5 years. But it's an additional cost, but it allows us to provide the same service and recycling to all of Greene County residents. I know that in the past, we had some discrepancies on the plastic. At one point, we had our current provider of where we just dropped off the plastic. They were quite selective, and the residents were extremely vocal about their displeasure of not accepting as much plastic as we used to. With this single stream, we now accept far more, and we can continue to do this if we've built this facility. County Waste, Welsh, Superior, those heavy haulers that pick up at the end of your driveway and the residents' driveways, they are charged to go and dispose of their single stream at this facility, like I said. If we do not build this, we will be charged $95 a ton to dispose of our recycling. Yes, we have the availability of some of the recycling markets, whether it's we bail cardboard or some of the paper, but it's still a cost. It offsets a very small portion of the cost.
So
it's still a cost.
You think it would be more efficient to not engage anything of looking at markets to recycle and just having these people dump it on the floor, get pushed into a walking floor and sent to a business that's in the
Correct.
business of
Somebody
recycling.
uses the highest technology for
Right.
source separation.
Right.
We don't have to handle,
Right.
residential, we'll still separate because really the resident themselves does the separation for us.
Yeah.
But on a volume standpoint.
And that separation at the residential side allows us to bail the cardboard and
Right.
try to offset
Right.
some costs.
Right.
But it's still, it offsets a cost. It certainly doesn't pay for it.
Do you think that would make it even more attractive for your heavy haulers, for the homeowners to give up on coming to your site with the separated recyclables and just say, County Waste, get me a bin so I can put my cardboard, plastic, glass, tin in the same thing? And
I'll answer that question. I'm a County Waste customer. I just put it in one bin, the same truck that takes my garbage, takes my recyclables.
Yeah.
But my neighbor self-disposes.
Right.
So he drives to the transfer station. He's willing to take his white bag this way, and then he'll voluntarily put his paper, plastic, et cetera, away. So it really depends upon who you are as to how you want to deal with, are you going to deal with a commercial entity or are you going to do it self-serve?
Right.
I don't know we don't have any. What's our residential drop-off volume? It's up. Versus, I guess my point is, if we had are we 80-20 in terms of disposal versus commercial versus residential? Are we 90-10? Are we, be curious.
Yeah, we could.
I mean, to me, it's worth me paying the one fee a month, once a week, the 2 bins get dumped and I don't have to deal with it. And then for this facility, this also is a tie into County Waste too, because they've now closed their recycling transfer station. They're bringing everything to us. So they're more reliant on us now than they were before.
So, one, besides your increased fuel costs for someone to come from their house to go to a transfer site, separate. The payoff for you guys, you're not getting anything from those separated recyclables unless you have a market for them.
Correct. I mean, the market fluctuates.
Yeah,
It fluctuates.
Yeah, secondary market's gonna be all.
And we don't have we don't have the resources or the personnel to go after the and
That's
sell
my
at this
point.
high point.
That's my point. Almost by nature, you're going to eventually phase out the residential people coming, which requires labor, monitoring by people there. Because just by nature, people are gonna figure it out and say,
No, I
it's
think,
easier to do it this way.
I think they're always gonna have those people that
I can
recycle.
take my 13-gallon bag for $2,
Yeah, I think.
and I can drive to my local station and I can drop my recycling.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I bring my waste to the transfer station and do source separate my
Yeah.
recyclables.
Yeah.
It's just something that I know that I can control where my.
Yeah, but you don't control where it goes after that.
Well, on both spectrums, right?
Right.
I mean, I can't, even though that I'm getting a certain cost per pound for the cardboard that I'm just sending out,
Right.
I have no idea where it goes after that. Same with these
Right.
single stream recycling. It goes to Sierra Recycling up in Albany Port, goes through this MRF Center, Material Recycling Facility. They separate it and they either hold the product and sell high, and they have storage facilities to make
Yeah.
sure that they sell it at the right time. I mean, they can watch the markets. We don't have that kind of, I mean, Ulster County has a MRF. Delaware County has a MRF. We don't have the facility to do that.
I still think you're always gonna have those people that are just not gonna spend $4 a week. Or they'd rather spend $4 a week to go out and dump their trash at our facilities rather than spending $40 a month on a contract to have somebody come in and take it for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're on a fixed income and you only have $2, a $2 bag, you're simply gonna bring it to the station and you recycle.
And I think there's a lot of that.
And we should, yeah, I mean.
How much municipal waste is the senior general?
They're not gonna
drive it there.
Don't forget about the guy that works on his house himself, or you're constantly cleaning stuff up, getting rid of mess. When you think about how much garbage you take to the transfer station in a year. I mean, I know I do, it's a lot. I mean, to me, it's not just, an
Yeah, the
open
numbers-
deal, it's.
The numbers
all
certainly
kinds.
don't lie, yes. And the more people that come up here, the more people use our transfer stations and the town transfer stations and recycling centers and the senior centers we pick up and the needle kiosks that we service and the cardboard boxes that we pick up and throughout the county. And yeah, there's a tremendous amount more that we have done in the past several years because of the volume that we're taking in it.
So Scott, on another item, we had talked about it months ago, was the change in society or the change at the corporate level about corporations that are producing the packaging.
Now, is that number 2 on our agenda?
It is, thank you, yes. Thank you for segueing into that.
So I noticed there was finally an actual commercial, TV commercial, about certain companies that are starting to use the common plastic that's the most recyclable and whatever. And
Yeah, I think that is a major issue with recycling. I think the general public and these corporations put the responsibility onto the consumer when they have a responsibility themselves to make sure that they're producing and their packaging is recyclable. And this resolution is something that the New York State legislator is trying to enact to put that responsibility back onto those producers.
Right.
Well, it started with car batteries, tires, right?
Right.
You buy a pair of tires, you're paying $5 a tire or whatever it is, so that's.
The paint too.
Paint. So I think as recycling continues to evolve, and it's even how to disassemble things is gonna change. It's just unsnap things and plastic goes that way, but the electronics go this way for remelts or something like that.
Right.
Think of all the alloys that are in those computer chips and computer programs that are. If you've been to any transfer station, you see the number of TVs and computers that are just stacked up. We're now seeing the original plasmas coming in. Because now they're obsolete. You know, I want that 85 incher in my room. I don't want that little 63 anymore. First thing that goes.
Probably smarter than I am.
Yes, we are going to have the household hazardous waste day again this year. It's incredibly popular. We're going to have it both in the valley again, as well as on the mountaintop. We've been searching high and low for a good spot to have it up there. We found a location. We'll be working, and the town of Wyndham has thankfully allowed us to use their facility. It's going to, logistically, it's going to work out. It needs to be a large paved area that we can get traffic around, and it's right next to our transfer station, so it's going to work out, hopefully work out well. July 9th is the one that's going to be in the valley, and sometime in November, it's going to be even on the mountaintop. We would like to have one on the mountaintop a little earlier, but that's the only other availability that they have.
It's nice to have it 2 different times of the year, anyway.
Absolutely. Geography wise too.
Yeah.
If you switch it around, it'd be less chance of snow at the moment.
I would, yeah, I listen.
Good point. It's not unusual to have.
I would love to push it up. I really would. I mean, that's unfortunately, we have to work with our subcontractor.
Scott, what are we doing with the end product from composting? What are you doing with that?
Right now, we haven't produced enough to give any away, so we're not doing anything with it yet. But we will be giving it away to those that participate in the program.
Okay.
So.
Did we ever get to a point where we could just sell it?
We are.
Theoretically.
I mean, in theory, sure, but we're
You'll probably give it away.
Larger system.
We're nowhere near that even.
It's still a pilot.
Yeah,
I think initially as a pilot was to look at, it starts at Catskill. If the rate of it increases, then potentially the composter that's at Catskill goes to the mountaintop. And then a bigger one goes to Catskill, and that way the mountaintop has something up there, one of their sites, you know, that is the right size then.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually had a lot of people reach out to us about this composting machine and the availability for participating in the program. Hopefully that continues, and actually they do the participating. So we'll see. We'll find out how popular it actually does become.
Is the jail using it? You take the food from the jail down there and put it in the composter?
We haven't reached out to the prison yet, but
I did. I did. I reached out to Pete on doing it. It comes down to a liability or bringing the food.
But the senior centers, we will be doing
that.
that.
So
That's what I was gonna say, the senior.
Absolutely.
yes, we reached out to the senior center first.
What's that?
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lost control.
That's, I was gonna say.
How long was that report?
I think you'd be covered.
We didn't even have any PowerPoint slides.
Hey, there's my one meeting going on here. I lost control once.
Between the two reports,
What time is it?
I want to say, what fund balance?
Okay, awarding the fuel bid.
Martinez.
Martinez and Handel, all in favor?
This discussion, could we maybe have the buildings turn their temperature down 5 degrees in the winter? Save with this.
Harry will.
Not this room.
Everybody wear long johns because this price.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim.
That's all right. Do we get a?
We have a motion and a second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. A resolution in support of the New York State Legislature establishing and extending producer responsibility system for packaging and printed paper.
Hewlett.
Lavera.
Village and Lavera, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Was that opposed? Oh, here you are. You're delayed.
So carried. Amending the agreement with local 968 AFS CME AFL CIO Council 66 regarding temporary change of work hours and work days.
Handle.
Handle, I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed? I guess so.
Or opposed, Tommy? So carried. Authorizing the county highway and solid waste superintendent to apply for fund for the Catskill Watershed Corporation Flood Hazardous Mitigation Implementation Program.
Martinez.
Martinez. Buelich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Attempting proposal for engineering services for the replacement of County Route 1 culvert over Brownell Creek, town of Hawkett.
Leg.
Handle.
Leg and Handle, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? So carried. Authorizing
Have a good day.
to enter into an agreement with Martin LaJudas DPC for engineering design services for the replacement of County Route 40 Maple Crest Road Bridge over to Batavia Kill bin 3-30286-0, Town of Wyndham, 171.92. I'll hold that. Leg with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Authorizing the Highway Department to enter into an agreement with Creighton Manning Engineering LLP for construction inspection services for the Greene County Route 22 bridge over the Catskill Creek, bin 3-30312-0, element specific bridge replacement project, Town of Durham, pin 1760.89.
Handle.
Second.
Handle.
Lennon.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
So carried. Authorizing the Highway Department to enter into an agreement with Creighton Manning Engineering LLP for the replacement of County Route 61 River Road Bridge over the Cooksaki Creek, bin 3-30910-0, Town of New Baltimore, pin 1761.91.
Second.
Linger
Hobart.
and Hobart, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Authorizing the county highway and solid waste superintendent to award the rehabilitation of the County Route 22 bridge over the Catskill Creek, bin 3-312-0, Town of Durham, pin 1760.89.
Second.
Handle, and was that Martinez?
Martinez.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution that determining that the proposed Catskill Transfer Station compost facility and single stream recycling building, including increased permitted waste tonnage accepted in an unlisted action and will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment.
Buelich.
I'll second. Okay, Buelich and Handle, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So carried. Awarding bid and author contract for the operations of the household hazardous waste collection event.
Martinez.
Buelich.
Martinez and Buelich, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So carried. Is there anything else to bring before public works committee before we close?
I hope not. Motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Lara and Handle, all in favor?
Handle.